Welcome back to another episode of Trust the Process. I am your host, Martin Bugai, and today I am joined by one of our online transformation clients, Faiyaz Amlani, who flew in from New York to London to celebrate an incredible milestone, a 45-pound body fat transformation in just 6.5 months. We recorded this episode right after his photo shoot, capturing not just the physical transformation, but the complete journey that got him here. Faiyaz opens up about his former life as a professional golfer, the career-ending moment that forced him into investment banking at one of the world's largest financial institutions, and the deep personal reasons that drove him to finally prioritize his health. This conversation goes beyond the scale. We dive into the mindset shifts, the emotional battles, and the defining moments that separate those who finish from those who fall off. If you've ever wondered what it really takes to transform your life while juggling a demanding career, this episode is for you. Let's get into it. Faiyaz, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Martin.
Nice to see you, man. All the way from New York.
That's right. Yeah.
So, if we were to take our listeners all the way back, so you've done exactly 6.5 months on our transformation journey, on the Transform 6 program. How has it been so far?
Wow. First of all, it's I just want to say thank you, obviously, to you and Jason. It's been an incredible ride the last 6.5 months. To answer your question, it's been a phenomenal experience. I have to say, so much of it, is unexpected. Mm. You kind of work towards something, put a lot of your time and effort into it. You never really realize in the end what you're capable of achieving. But here we are.
Yeah. Man, I've been so excited about this because obviously yesterday we had our photo shoot.
Yeah.
And people will probably see the before and after. You have changed so much.
Yeah.
Just for the listeners out there, how much weight have you lost?
I think in total about 40, close to 45 pounds. That's that sort of region right there. Yeah, it's a lot. And the funny thing is I didn't even know I had that to lose. But looking at the before and afters, it was just shocking. It's the transformation is really something else.
That's what really hit me yesterday when I was looking at the before photos, is how much you've changed. Your face in a before photo, just so puffy, and and here you are now, looking just like a completely different person.
Yeah, that's it, absolutely. And looking back, as you said, just it looked puffy, just inflamed. The amount of people that probably just go through life day to day thinking that that's just sort of a normal thing. I was saying to you earlier, so there's so much. There's so many sinister things that could be hiding underneath there when it comes to just overall health, and how you feel when you wake up in the morning. Looking at yourself in the mirror, you look at how I used to look 6 months ago, 7 months ago, and you would think that that's okay, that's normal. It's not. I feel like a new man. I feel so much more energized. I'm 41 years old, and had you asked me 6 months ago, 7 months ago, I would have said, yeah, I feel like I'm 41. I feel maybe older. And today, that's not the case. Today, I feel, as I said, like a new man. I wake up in the morning energized. I look at myself in the mirror, and the other person's not there anymore. So
that's amazing. That's really incredible. Well, listen, your story is quite interesting, and we'll delve into it in a second. But again, I want to go back to our first goal, our strategy goal, because you were recommended to us by one of our long-term clients, Ricky, who is your friend.
Ricky is a good friend, yeah.
Tell me a little bit more about that story.
Yeah. Ricky has been a good friend now for quite a few years. I met Ricky through my cousin, funny enough. Ricky and my cousin have been friends for a very long time. And we're golfing buddies. Mm-hmm. Ricky's a golfer. He loves to play the sport. I have a background in golf as well. Love to play the sport. And we do this sort of annual boys trip. Whether it's once or twice a year, we get together. There's about 10 guys. Get out, go have a good time on a golf course, 3 days in a row. And Ricky and I have just developed this close relationship through these weekends that we hang out and play golf. And I specifically remember seeing Ricky from one year to the next, where I saw him. He looked a certain way, but was keen on his health and fitness. Was very sharp. Had a lot of just knowledge about health and fitness in general. And I thought to myself, well, I really can stand to learn quite a bit from him. So kind of picked his brain a little bit, just to get an understanding about where he was in his process. And then I saw him a year later,
Right.
Again, and he'd gone through this incredible transformation. And I said to Ricky, I was like, Rick, what happened? You look phenomenal, And then he told me about you guys, and he said, well, Martin, Jason, a group of guys who've developed this program, and really, if it's something that you're absolutely gonna focus on, and it's something that you really want to dedicate and your time and be disciplined on, they can get you in the right place. And really, the rest is history.
The rest is history indeed. Yes. So we then had our strategy call. What was going through your mind? So you obviously, I suppose the big element is the fact that there was trust there already. You knew Ricky,
Right.
who had great results,
Right.
still a client of ours. So the element of trust was there. What was your mindset like prior to joining the program?
Yeah, obviously, there's so many programs out there. There's so many things out there, fitness-wise, that people are always interested in trying to get individuals into better shape, healthier or leaner or fitter or whatever it is. There's just so much out there, and as you said, the trust factor, because I came recommended from Ricky and he'd already been through the process, that was there. So that was a big aspect that I didn't necessarily have to worry about with you guys, right? So straight away from day one, that trust factor was there. What was really going through my mind, more or less, was funny enough, how much I believed in myself, and trying to figure out whether this is something that I can absolutely dedicate myself fully to, commit to in a proper way, to where I could really take advantage of the opportunity of being in a program like this. Whether it was something that I felt that I could really just find the discipline to do on a daily basis, given everything else that we have going on in our lives, work, family, all that sort of thing. I wasn't 100% sure whether I could personally commit, to it at a level that was required for me to produce any sort of results. I guess that was my big sort of,
That's huge.
hold up.
Where do you feel that was coming from?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think I think because I have a background in athletics, as I said. I think I sort of use that background as my standard form of comparison. So anything that I do, really, I approach it in a way where I understand the level of discipline I have, and how much of my time, my personal time and effort, it's going to take to accomplish something or to do something. I said this many times to friends and family. I have two levels, either 0 or 100, and if I'm not capable of giving 100, to a program like this, then it's not worth my time in doing it. And I wanted to make sure that I would fully be able to commit myself. And in saying that, while I was going through all of this in my head during our call, during the chat that we were having in the beginning, it struck me at the exact same time that there's no point in trying to find the right time. I think the idea being that there's never going to be a right time. You sort of have to commit to yourself, make a commitment to yourself, and trust the fact that when it comes to accomplishing these tasks on a daily basis, whether it's following a set of macros from a nutritional standpoint, whether it's following your workout routine that's in the program for the day getting in a bit of cardio, even after a long day of work or a stressful day in the office. I think if you're capable of making that, a part of your day and having the discipline to do it regardless of the situation that day, then there's no need to wait for anything. I think you sort of hit the pedal to the metal and get going.
Yeah.
And once you start, you develop a routine, and then it becomes a bit easier.
Yeah, it's interesting that mindset 0 to 100, because I think a lot of our guys that come to a program prior to starting, I think a lot of them have that sort of mindset. Given obviously from a professional standpoint, the jobs that they do, careers, etc., they're used to operating on a certain level, high level, every single day, and it's just push, KPIs, goals, etc., etc.
Exactly.
So when it comes to really changing their bodies, lifestyle, health, etc., they feel like the same needs to be applied, and this is where I always say more is not necessarily better.
Correct.
And it's not about going 0 to 100. It's about consistently applying yourself, showing up daily, and essentially just showing up, really, and doing what you can. We are keeping you accountable,
100%,
and helping you through this journey to make it as easy for you as possible.
100%.
But you know what's interesting? The reason I asked this question is because obviously, as you mentioned, you have background in athletics, so it's bigger than that. You were a professional golfer, for many years.
Yeah, that's correct.
So tell me all the way back to give me a little bit of a background there.
Of course. So yes, I am a retired professional golfer. Got to play at sort of I guess we would call it, as a comparison, you would call it sort of the minor league of golf. I played in many tournaments worldwide. Got the opportunity to play amongst some really good players out there. Started at a young age playing. Got to the point where I had a mini sponsorship with Nike, for example. Traveled, played. It was a good ride. Had a really good time. Played competitively throughout. The United States, Europe, the Middle East, Asia. All over. And got to a point where, playing a professional sport, you develop a background and strong background of discipline.
Yeah.
You develop, a solid work ethic, training. There is an understanding of what's required to produce certain results. And so all of that is inherently there for me, particularly when I started this program with you guys. And so that was definitely an advantage that I brought into the program. But going back to the golf, as I said, it was a great ride. Had a good time. Unfortunately, had suffered an injury in 2016, back injury, and had to sort of wean off the golf for a bit, and then ended up retiring. But yeah, it had a really good career. In hindsight, looking at it, I got to see the world. Got to really play some solid golf, and it's really taught me a lot of life lessons that I still use on a daily basis today.
Probably met some incredible people as well, right?
Yeah, I got to meet some phenomenal people, phenomenal individuals. And it was something that even though it didn't necessarily end with the Cinderella story, I'm not confident I would change anything about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you, with that background, obviously discipline, used to structure, training, nutrition, all the above. Now you're faced with a decision where you're about to embark on our program to change your health, your body, your life, essentially. You said that you knew, let's call it assets that you had, right? The discipline, the hard work, the mindset, all of that stuff. Yet you still questioned whether you'd be able to back yourself up and commit to it.
Yeah.
This is the part that I want to understand for somebody like yourself, because a lot of people would potentially pose a question, I'm not a former, professional or semi-professional athlete, whatever. I haven't got those ingredients.
Of course.
Will I be able to to do that?
I think that's a phenomenal question. Listen, I think having the personal characteristics, that you need, like discipline, like holding yourself accountable for maintaining some of these tasks that are required of you when you go through a program like this, whether it's nutritional, whether it's your workouts, daily workouts. I think characteristics that you develop from being an athlete are phenomenal. They're great. If you have them it's an advantage. But I think there are other ways of getting those things. You don't necessarily get those characteristics just from playing sports. You can get them from having diligence in school. You can get them from having diligence in your daily lives with your work. You can get them from having diligence with your family, with your children, your spouse, whatever it is in your life that you're going through. You develop these characteristics. My path was just it came through sport. My father was a tennis player when he was younger, and both my parents taught me similar characteristics that you can get this way. My sister's a lawyer, and she got hers through studying. But she's very, very disciplined. She's very, very on it. She's very strong mentally, and she's just got a phenomenal mindset. And I learn from these people around me on a regular basis, and I'm so grateful to have them in my life. And it's a situation where you get these characteristics from living, and then when you have them, you sort of have to hone them and focus them towards anything that you do in your lives going forward. And I think it's almost magnified if you choose to do something to better yourself in this way. If you choose to focus on, for example, your health and fitness. My story in particular, I had a wake up call with a doctor's appointment. Found out that my cholesterol was high. Significantly high. Blood pressure was high, and it made sense. You wake up in the morning, I look at myself and I have a swollen face. You start to wonder. I'm 41 years old. Why do I look like this? And as I said, it didn't seem like I had 40 odd pounds to lose, but there you go. And those characteristics that I took from sport, you leverage them, and you put them to work every day. You put into work the discipline, and you make them work for you.
Yeah. Before we continue, I want to take a quick moment to speak directly to you, listening right now. If Faiyaz's story is resonating with you, if you're a high-performing professional who's achieved success in your career but feels like your health and fitness have taken a back seat, I want you to know that there is a clear path forward. I've created a free resource called the Ultimate Executive MOT. It's a quick self-assessment tool that allows you to score yourself across the key areas of health, fitness, and performance. It takes just a few minutes, and it will give you complete clarity on where you are right now and what areas need your attention most. You can access it at score.martinbugai.com/executive-MOT. That's score.martinbugai.com/executive-MOT. And if you want to see exactly how we help clients like Faiyaz achieve these kind of transformations while managing demanding careers, travel schedules, and all the commitments that come with high performance, head over to martinbugai.com/transform6. There you'll find a detailed video where I walk you through our entire program along with testimonials and interviews from clients who've been exactly where you are right now. No pressure, just clarity and proven path forward when you're ready. All right, let's get back to Faiyaz's story. I think if I were to summarize with one word, I suppose, there's discipline and all the other things, but I think it's the resilience, that you get sort of through life. You gain it through life, whether it's through sports, whether it's through just life in general, going through hardships, etc.
Absolutely.
Not giving up, showing up continuously, just trying, and that's what a lot of our clients are individuals who run super successful businesses, run companies, CEOs, COOs, all of that, that sort of stuff. Yeah. So for these guys out there, if anybody's thinking, like, you've got a lot of you have got all those ingredients for success.
Absolutely.
I think it's that self-limiting belief and potentially preconceived ideas coming from, I've tried before, I was successful to a degree, but I was never able to successfully, continuously maintain that success
Absolutely.
from a health, fitness, fat loss standpoint, whatever it may be. So I think that's what really trips a lot of people over
Yeah.
when it comes to commitment.
No, I couldn't agree more. And I think you hit the nail on the head with regards to the resiliency mark, because I feel like, as I said, if you run a company out there, or you're a doctor or a dentist or whatever it is that you do, it takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of man hours, sweat, blood, sweat, tears to go in every day and do what you do, and do it at a certain level, a certain level that makes you proud of doing it. That's exactly that's what you need. That sort of oomph behind what gets you out of bed every day. That's exactly what it takes, internally. And you get, for example, I got that through sport, but internally, those characteristics that you get from doing that on a consistent basis, I think is what's required to accomplish something like this. You have that, and it makes going through this situation so much more easier, because you have this belief, this faith in yourself. Consistency is also another thing. I think holding yourself accountable on a daily basis, just on a micro level, from day to day, understanding what it is. Am I going to accomplish this today? Planning. Jason is a big believer in sort of pre-planning, your week out, for example, and saying, hey, look, make sure that you look at what your next few days have coming up, from a meal standpoint or from a workout standpoint. Make sure that you're ready and prepped to take those days on, because we all have busy lives, and it's more about balance and organizing these things together. And once you figure that out, I think you've got something special.
It's scheduling and managing, really,
100%.
essentially, what
Absolutely.
it comes down to, right?
Yeah, totally.
So there's a couple of interesting things that you mentioned there. I think holding yourself accountable is one, but holding yourself to a certain standard is another thing. Because I would assume that coming from professional sports background, you were used to holding yourself to a certain standard. Now, obviously, the injury happened, then change in careers, you're now in investment banking, finance, etc. At what point, obviously, or I suppose the question I'm trying to ask is, do you remember any moments or messages that you were being given, I don't know, by the universe, life, whatever? You mentioned blood pressure, doctor's appointments, and things like that. Then obviously seeing Ricky, I see it as life throwing little messages at you.
Absolutely.
Can you recall or remember any other moments that were sort of getting you closer to potentially dealing with a situation where it's like, I think I need to do something about my health?
Yeah, totally. I mean, listen, I think in 40 years, you run into a lot of different situations where you find yourself, questioning, is this just, coincidence or is this somebody telling me, look, it's time to wake up? Yes, I will say this, blood pressure, heart problems, that sort of thing, runs in my family. So from a medical standpoint, it was always on my radar. But I feel like, there are times when you wake up, as I said, you just sort of wake up, you go through your day, and whether you look at yourself in the mirror or whether you just question your overall health or how you feel, I think it's there are moments where you start to think, can I do better? Can I be better? What does it take for me? What is it going to take for me to listen? I'll be very honest. It's a tough thing when and I don't want to come off sounding vain, but I'm being super honest here. It's a tough thing, sometimes when you look in the mirror and you're just not happy with what you see across from you. You coming from the background that I have, being an ex-athlete or whatever, you can, I'm used to waking up and seeing a certain version of me. Now, granted, that was a much younger version that I used to wake up and see, but I still have images of the person that in front of me, that and being pleased about, aesthetically, and knowing that, look, okay, you look good, but you also feel good. You have that energy to behind you. You have that sort of drive, that will, that motivation on a daily basis. You get out of bed, and that sort of drives you, to do more, to go out and push, and whatever it is that you're doing that day, you put everything that you have into it. I think there was a point in my life, especially in the last, I'd say 5 or 6 years, where that feeling had just gone. I wake up out in the morning, and you look at yourself, and sad to say, you just don't, I'm like, oh, who the hell is this guy? You wake up and you think, and you're like, I don't recognize myself anymore. To the point where I knew, something had to be done, and I know, to answer your question, I know I mentioned it, a moment ago, but I think that moment for me that really just that felt like, hey, maybe it was somebody telling me something, was, when I saw Ricky, and I said to my cousin the same day, I was like, wow, Rick looks great, looks really different. And he said, yeah, you should talk to him, because he's on this program, and he's been really diligent with his, and these trips that we go on, listen, they're boys' trips, right? So there is a lot of indulging in food. There is a lot of indulging in drink, and we go out, and I remember specifically this year, everybody was giving Rick a hard time because Rick was so on a trip, on a 3-day holiday, on a trip, he stood by his morals. He said, you know what, I'm gonna pass on that drink, or I'm gonna go home and get some rest. We have an early tea time, and that's not what these trips were about. and I was just so impressed that I thought, right, this is it. This has to be it. This is my opportunity to do something in my life, to better myself and to make that change. And I think Rick, if you ask him, I think, he could probably see it in my eyes. He knew that I was sort of ready, and that I had been looking for something like this, which is more than likely the reason why he made the intro. But yeah, that was my moment.
Thank you for sharing that.
No.
Isn't it interesting that you said a moment ago that everybody was giving him a hard time?
Yes.
But deep down, I suppose everyone was kind of admiring him for standing his ground and really being true to himself and working for he wanted to achieve. And it's like, it is inspiring, isn't it?
Yeah, it's extremely inspiring. And yes, absolutely. And to be honest, that's a whole nother conversation that I would, we can absolutely get into, because just taking into consideration, reactions and responses, and just the things that people around you say when you're going through this process. I can officially say that I've heard it all now.
Yeah.
I mean, in my 6 or 7 months, I have absolutely heard it all. I've heard, everything from, wow, you look good, but you should stop, or oh wow, I don't even recognize you anymore, or are you unwell, or do you have a disease? I've literally heard it all. And thinking back in hindsight, I can imagine that Ricky went through something very, very similar. And on a night out, when you're with family or with friends, there's always people around you that are going to say, oh, no, it's just one night, indulge. It's just one night, just enjoy. But one night becomes 2, and 2 nights becomes 3, and 3 nights becomes a week, and you could, so if you're not holding yourself accountable on a daily basis, it's so easy to fall off. And that's to me is the most admirable aspect about everyone that puts themselves through this program, is to find success, you have to hold yourself accountable. You have to be, you have to draw the line. You have to be the one that puts your foot down and saying, look, no.
Takes a lot of courage and strength,
Absolutely.
inner strength.
Yeah.
That's what separates true leaders from followers.
Absolutely.
A lot of guys think that it's, that it's easy, maybe deep down. On the flip side, I suppose, that's probably the one thing that actually stops them from committing to themselves.
Sure.
Because they are afraid of what others will say.
Yeah.
They play certain part in their little ecosystem of friends, family, etc., and they don't have the strength to say, no, this is what this is my life, this is my health, and this is my why. These are my reasons why I've committed to this, and I strongly stand by it. You can mock it, you can laugh, that's absolutely fine. It's your choice, but I commit to this.
Totally.
And I think this is such a strong message. So thank you for bringing it up, because I think so many men have to hear that.
Yes.
It's incredibly tough to commit to yourself, but then equally, once you do, you just make it work. And the pride and strength that you get from it and the growth that you get from it is unbelievable.
Oh man, you hit the nail on the head. What you get in return, it's obviously it's hard work, right? Don't get me wrong. I think anybody that agrees to this program obviously wants. It's obvious that they're ready and they want to make a change in their lives. They want to make a change in the positive and the better for themselves and for by extension their families. But the reward is tenfold. What you get back in return, as I said, not just by waking up in the morning and looking at yourself. That's one thing, but just like for me, this was me. I don't know, maybe just proving to myself that, look, this you can still do. You put your mind and your efforts and your body, you put all of your time and efforts to something, you can accomplish it, and the results are there, But the fact is that, this whole concept of working hard towards something, in this particular program, it's incredible. But the idea of working hard towards it, that transcends all of life.
Thank you.
You work hard, at obviously at the office. You work hard at home with your family. You work hard, with your fitness and your nutrition, and you will find proven results. You will find results. You put the time and dedication and effort into it, and you will come out, with results. And that creates this feeling of pride. Nobody can take that away.
Listen, anything worth working for is going to be hard.
Absolutely.
And it's the hardship that actually, like you said, gives you that feeling of accomplishment and pride.
That's exactly it.
It's so good to hear you, what you said earlier, a few minutes ago. You said you woke up, you looked in the mirror and you said, I can do better. I think so many men live in that limbo phase where they look in the mirror. That's what they think.
Yeah.
But they never really have the courage to actually say it out loud and do something about it. That's a powerful message, man.
It's a huge message. And listen, I'm not scared to admit any of these things. I was scared.
Yeah.
I
that's a good feeling, by the way.
It's a great feeling, because the feeling of not knowing, what the future holds. And listen, we're not talking about years. We're 6.5 months in.
Yeah.
And look at what you get, my before and after. That's 6.5 months. We're not talking about even a year.
Yeah,
it's just. I was frightened at the start. Jason sent me, my first set of macros, sent me my first, set of workouts for the week, and I remember the feeling of looking at this, thinking, right, I have all. And he said to me, the first thing he said to me was, "Listen, you just hit that button. You send me any questions, any messages that you have, and I'll come back to you." He said, "If you are at work and you need to go out at a restaurant, send me the menu, and I'll make." So it was all done for me. Everything was there. The only thing I had left to do was hold myself accountable.
Thank you.
And it was a daunting sort of feeling to think that, shit, now I have to go to work and it's all there now. Go to work, come back and get this thing going. So I remember using my very first weekend to plan out sort of my gym schedule, to plan out thinking about meals and things like that. And I remember when I first started, I was still buying food from out. I think Chipotle was one of my my go-tos. Yeah. And it's funny, even in a month, in a month's time, I think I went to Chipotle every day for about 2 weeks for lunch, thinking that was the easy way, thinking I could just go buy, a meal or bowl or something, and I get my macros in. But then, without even knowing it, without even realizing it, we evolve.
Yeah, you start to refine your systems,
You start to
right?
you start to find new ways of going about it. And I thought to myself, right, I don't need to go to Chipotle anymore. You know what? I'm going to go to the grocery store this weekend. Let me go to the grocery store. Let me plan out. And obviously, Jason helped me with a few ideas, plan out a few meals, spend some time in the kitchen, which frankly I love. It's quite relaxing. And yeah, and you end up, sorting out a week's worth of meals. I think it doesn't get any better than that for me. And with every week that passed from then on, one small aspect just became more efficient and became more refined and became better. And so so it just got better and better from there.
Amazing. I do want to take a quick moment here and give a big shout out to Jason, because he's been phenomenal on this journey. He held you accountable. He helped you every step of the way. So you guys,
absolute
match
God,
made in heaven.
Absolute godsend. Jason's been he's been honestly almost like a brother in the sense that if somebody I can go out to any day I need to. I speak to him almost as much as I do my own parents on a weekly basis, and he's become part of the family. And finally meeting the both of you, obviously this week, has been really special for me, because you guys have played such a big role in my life over the last 6.5, 7 months. It's been obviously it's been phenomenal. I attribute so much of this success obviously to you guys and this program. And I really, for anyone out there that's listening, you really trust the process, and you guys are in phenomenal hands with these guys.
Thank you so much. I truly appreciate everything that you said, and it means a lot. It really means a lot. Seeing you in person in London yesterday, photo shoot. You obviously walk into the studio, you don't know what to expect, right? And I love these moments when we see clients for the first time. We feel like we know you guys because we chat on Zoom, etc.
Exactly.
But it's a completely different level when you see somebody in person. So you walk through the door. What goes through your mind? You're about to do a photo shoot. There is the whole team.
Yeah, I mean there was a lot going through my mind. I'll tell you the first feel. It's strange. Humans are funny, right? Like our first reactions are always, they can always be just very either negative or just questionable. Like in the sense that, like the first feeling I felt walking into that studio yesterday after meeting you guys was, who am I? Who's this guy that thinks he's gonna do a photo shoot now? So I still walking into that studio yesterday almost felt like I didn't deserve to be there. I shouldn't be, who am I? I'm not some bodybuilder or some, but the truth is, all it takes is to open up this app and you can see, everything, every workout I've done in the last 6, 7 months, every meal I've eaten in the last 6, 7 months. All the steps I've taken. We were talking about it before the podcast started. Every day to break 10,000 steps. Something I never ever thought I could accomplish. You start thinking about all of these combined, these efforts, all of these accomplishments, and then you find security in this feeling that right, I do deserve to be here. Yeah. I worked my ass off to be here, and now I'm going to flex it. Man, I
love that, because this is exactly why I love doing these photo shoots. It's not for vanity reason or anything like that.
Exactly.
It's, you know what it is? It's breaking the mold. It's shifting your mindset.
Right.
Because I know that the moment you step in and the moment you step out, you are two different people.
Totally.
Because what changes, how your mindset shifts throughout this whole process, how you start to really believe in yourself, how you start to really have the feeling of, I deserve
belonging.
this.
Yeah.
Belonging.
Yeah.
I've worked for it. I deserve it.
Absolutely.
I look incredible.
Yes.
Yes, it's not about being a bodybuilder or fitness model or anything like that. It's almost like a graduation of a certain stage in this process that, gives you that belief and that confidence?
It's that moment where the culmination
Mm.
of all of the hard work, the sweat that you've put in over the last 6 months,
Yep.
all of that sort of comes together, and you're looking at yourself in the mirror holding these weights, and the vascularity is there, the pump is there, and you're thinking to yourself, what? Wow, I made this happen.
Yeah.
All of this hard work, it made this happen. And beyond that, I think even more important is that something like this is possible. And to a lot of the guys out there, or girls, whatever it is, so many people have so many doubts floating around in their minds that maybe just are preventing them from taking that step, believing in themselves, finding that sort of internal, positivity to just get out there and do it. Just know it's there. It's there for the taking. It exists. I did it. In the beginning, I didn't think it was possible.
Mm-hmm.
But look what 6 months of hard work and commitment can bring.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Actually, on that topic, what did you think was possible? What did you expect of this journey when we first spoke?
Man, that's a great question.
Because you probably just wanted to lose. I can't even remember exactly, but you probably said something like 10, 15 pounds or something.
Yeah. Listen, we've had a few conversations about it, and in my mind, I was thinking. In the beginning, I was thinking I had no idea what this is all going to bring, but I thought, right, if I lose 15 pounds, 20 pounds, find a little bit of tone and definition in my body, then I think I'd be a happy person. But I think this, it's so much more than that. It's so much deeper. It goes way beyond just the aesthetic aspect. I think I have to say, Martin, as much as I look in myself in the mirror after the shoot yesterday, as much as we see, aesthetically, as much as the changes that we see from a physical standpoint, obviously the muscularity, the definition, the tone, I think this process did more for me mentally than it did physically.
Yeah.
And I think that says a lot about the program, because as phenomenal as I feel now, and as phenomenal as I look in the mirror, just based on that shoot, I look back at it and I think my mental state has changed for the positive in such a way, just proving to myself that I was capable of something like this, or going out on a limb and doing something that maybe I wasn't necessarily sure about in the very beginning. Taking the steps, having faith and belief obviously in the process. I just feel like, it was for me, that was the biggest, the biggest win.
Man, this is amazing, because that's truly why we do what we do.
Yeah.
It's, like I always say, the physical is just a byproduct of everything else. How you change your health, energy, and the mindset. As much as it is about the physical body in the end, I think the mindset transformation is really what it's all about, because it sets you up for much, much greater success after this, because you get that self-belief that you build throughout this process, and you know that you, like you said, are suddenly capable of things that you never thought were possible. And I think that's huge.
Yeah, I can't say enough about that, because the confidence that you walk away with afterwards, as you said it a second ago, you walk into that studio, you're one person, you walk out and you're a completely different person. It is a moment of graduation. It is, it's a moment where you take some time and you can genuinely appreciate the work that you put in over the last 6 months. And that's what it stands. And again, who knows what's going to happen in the next 6 months? Obviously, we're moving on to another phase, and we have an incredible amount of work in front of us. But the good news is that nobody can take away what we've done.
100%.
And that will stand.
100%. Before we continue, I want to take a quick moment to speak directly to you, listening right now. If Faiyaz's story is resonating with you, If you're a high-performing professional who's achieved success in your career but feels like your health and fitness have taken a back seat, I want you to know that there is a clear path forward. I've created a free resource called the Ultimate Executive MOT. It's a quick self-assessment tool that allows you to score yourself across the key areas of health, fitness, and performance. It takes just a few minutes, and it will give you complete clarity on where you are right now and what areas need your attention most. You can access it at score.martinbugai.com/executive-MOT. That's score.martinbugai.com/executive-MOT. And if you want to see exactly how we help clients like Faiyaz achieve these kind of transformations while managing demanding careers, travel schedules, and all the commitments that come with high performance, head over to martinbugai.com/transform6. There you'll find a detailed video where I walk you through our entire program along with testimonials and interviews from clients who've been exactly where you are right now. No pressure, just clarity and proven path forward when you're ready. All right, let's get back to Faiyaz's story. Also, I think, photoshoot is an interesting moment because as much, again, as it is for, obviously the visual, etc., and the mindset, I think it's an element of validation that you almost deserve and need to hear and see from others who genuinely appreciate what you've gone through and what you've achieved, because we've been in your corner every single day. We've been, coaching, guiding you, etc. It's not many people can have that outside of this coaching process. Mm-hmm. You can't really talk to your colleagues or whatever if they're not on the same journey. They don't really understand. So a lot of this stuff that you go through, it's a lonely journey, right? Absolutely. So I think having that team and accountability is massive. But still, there are situations and moments where you just, the struggle is real and you are kind of on your own and you have to process things. As much as you know that you can message us, voice note, book a call, whatever, there is still probably a massive percentage of time where you really fight your own demons and your own thoughts and like the battles every single day.
That's you make an incredible point, Martin. I will have to say that you and Jason both have acted as an incredible support system for me during this entire process. Almost, psychotherapists, to be honest with you, because there were obviously I've come to you guys in moments of duress, of stress, of questioning. Oh my gosh, the feedback that I'm getting from externally, mm-hmm. whether it's friends, whether it's family, whether it's work, people genuinely expressing to me their concern. I told you about my boss pulling me into her office, saying to me, "Are you okay?" Mm-hmm. And you hear enough of that, and you start to question it yourself. And that for me was a little difficult because, as I said, nobody knows your journey. Nobody knows better than you or us. Nobody understands what we're trying to accomplish here, and so they're not always going to process it the way that you might expect. Process it or understand some of what maybe you need to hear yourself. So I've had friends and family and colleagues all alike say to me, "Oh gosh, you don't look well. You really gotta stop." And those external comments can be very, very, very demoralizing.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you can't. On the one hand, you can't really blame people because they don't really understand.
Not at all.
They don't really fully understand what you're going through, why you are doing it, what's the purpose of it, etc. On the other hand, however, and I said this to you, where are those people when you're on the journey the other way?
The other way around.
When you're putting weight on, when you are actually unhealthy,
right?
When your cholesterol is off the chart,
Through the roof,
where your blood pressure is off the chart, when you're stressed, when you can't sleep, when you struggle mentally on day-to-day basis, you look in the mirror and you don't like what you see.
Yeah.
Where are these people then?
Absolutely.
See, this is society is so funny, especially when it comes to health and fitness, and it has changed massively, and it's changing and it's going in the right direction. But I think more people need to really understand that it's really hard to expect, but I think people also need to
Just maybe be a bit open-minded about
open-minded and
Yeah.
mindful
Yeah.
of, okay, if I'm genuinely concerned and I want to bring that up, maybe I should really find out a little bit more and the actual context around the situation.
100%. I mean, listen, it's really easy to just make a one-off comment, and say something like, "Are you okay? Are you unwell? You got to stop," or something. And to their credit, that was my boss's way of showing her concern,
Absolutely.
which
I totally understand.
which I think, and even you mentioned it. Is first of all, the first thing you said to me when I expressed this concern to you was, it's a you have a great boss there, because obviously she's concerned about
Yep.
you, and her hearts and mind is in the right place. But they themselves are not aware. But they also don't realize the sort of mental damage or what can come from a simple little comment like that. Because for me, it just it increased any sort of anxiety that maybe I was having, and we were at such a critical stage in the program
Yeah.
where there was a lot of change happening in a short period of time. And I think just at that moment, I had to come to you guys, and and I just needed a therapy session. And I said to Jason, I was like, yeah, I feel a little skinny. I feel and listen, you guys are you guys will know all the math and science behind all of this. Obviously it's you're in a depleted situation of glycogen, whatever. You guys know all the science behind it, but to the normal person out there, they don't.
For sure.
And
I think, it's a hindsight is beautiful, right?
Yeah.
Because like I know that when these moments are happening, there is a big shift.
Right.
And that's an opportunity for us to really show you the support, show you the knowledge, the experience, etc., explain what's going on, because at this moment you are open to really hearing everything.
Right.
Whereas if nobody outside said anything, you would probably never be in this situation. And let's say
Absolutely.
that happened outside the program, and you would probably deal with the situation completely differently. So I think it's a blessing in disguise, so
Yeah.
to speak. But yeah, it's part of the process.
Speaking of which, also just to mention another benefit of the program and how you guys have it developed. Had I tried to do this on my own, for example, I started to see these physical changes in my body, there's no chance I continue carrying on with it.
Yes.
How do I know as a normal individual that look, you start seeing these changes and immediately you stop or revert and you change and you think to yourself, okay, that's enough.
Mhm.
But you need your group of trainers, educated people in this aspect around you to tell you, no, this is a sweet spot. If you take the next few steps here, keep going, this is where you want to be, because in a couple of weeks you're going to see a whole new world.
Brilliant point, because I think a lot of people get to that point and give up at
That's
this
what I mean,
stage.
yeah.
And that's what's creating those self-limiting beliefs.
There you go.
I tried, I failed,
Mhm.
I hit a plateau.
Yeah.
I'm scared to go to these places again
man.
because it was horrid. It was
Oh, man,
mentally tough. It was
Oh.
physically tough, etc. So, yeah, again, to your point, I think it's important that people always consider having a specialist in their corner.
Absolutely.
Coach,
Absolutely.
team of coaches, somebody who genuinely cares, who
Yeah.
knows what they're doing, and who can coach you through this process.
Yeah, absolutely. Because success is right. It's right there on your doorstep. A couple of steps away. And I think if you just sell yourself short just a little too soon, you kind of block yourself from achieving, everything that you could have. And as I said, if I tried to do this on my own, who knows? Okay, you follow a proper diet, you follow a proper fitness plan, but the minute you start seeing, these sort of results in the mirror, for me, there was no chance I continue and push to the next side. And so it's only with your guidance, obviously, where this really became something special. And so you absolutely need somebody in your corner that's there fighting this with you. And I feel like, for that being said, you guys have been super supportive. And going back to the point about just external comments and things, you just kind of have to. You get to a point where you you start just putting that aside, and you work past it, and you start to see to the other side. You start to see benefits, and you start to see sort of overall. Well, more than what you see, you start to feel. You know, and you start to feel so much stronger and better.
Yeah. It really is about managing your emotions.
Yeah.
A lot of the time, be it positive or negative, because both can derail your journey.
Oh, 100%.
You know, if you get too hyped up about something, too excited, etc., that's going to trigger certain moves, and equally negative emotions can really derail the journey. So yeah, great point. What would you say, obviously being at this point of this journey, what would you say to yourself 6.5 months ago when you started? Given that you've gone through all of this, having the experience and all of that, what would you say to Faiyaz 6.5 months ago?
I mean, I think that's the easiest question you could ask me. I think it's right there behind me. I would have told myself to just trust the process, you know, and it's your slogan, and I don't think it could have been any, you know, I can state it any better. I think that's it. That's the hardest part, right? The hardest part is to trust it, you know, and the hardest part is really to trust yourself, to commit to something, and to get to that point where you feel almost vulnerable, right? Where you emotionally, physically let go, and you say, right, first of all, there's this feeling of acceptance of who you are in this moment. So 6 months ago, 7 months ago, the person that wakes up out of bed, gets on a phone call with Jason, says, I want to make a change. Acceptance. All right, that's me, who I am in that day, accepted. You know, this is what, but you want to make a change. So what is it that you want to become? And obviously with, you know, your guidance and your help in the program, map out a plan, you map out, you know, this is what we're going to eat, this is what we're going to do, this is how it's going to happen, this is what we're going to achieve. And you start slowly, one by one, hitting those markers, you know, ticking things off, making sure that, you know, you're achieving small wins on a daily basis. So every day you've got something to be proud of. You know, and once you start getting these under your belt, they start coming more and more often. You start feeling better and better, you know, and they become second nature almost. Then you start trusting a bit more. You start letting go a bit more. You know, you get a bit more comfortable, and you say, hey, you know what? Maybe I got this. Maybe this is something I can do, you know? And then you wake up the next day and you look at yourself, and there's easier acceptance of who you are. And then you start seeing, you know, changes on a week-to-week basis, month-to-month basis. And you say, wow.
That's
you know?
incredible, man.
Yeah.
That's really incredible. Now, I'm going to shift the gears a little bit because I also wanted to touch on the logistics of everyday life. Now, you're obviously somebody who has incredibly busy schedule. You work for a big corporation. You have responsibilities on day-to-day basis. And I remember you saying at the beginning, and this was partly, you know, the self-belief that you had in your head prior to starting. It's like, will I be able to manage all of this amongst other things that I've got going on in my life on day-to-day basis? That's clearly been, I mean, you managed it fairly easily because, like, given the example of steps, you never thought it was possible.
Yeah.
Alcohol, you never thought it was possible. And in fact, what you said in
one
of our initial calls, you said, I don't think I'll be able to give up alcohol.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll be able to do X, Y, and Z. So talk me through that, because
Absolutely.
I think a lot of current clients are going to find this incredibly insightful and helpful.
Totally. Listen, you know, you never really realize again, you know, what you're capable of. But yeah, there were in the beginning. I think one of the first conversations I had with you and Jason was about my expectations and what I want to change versus what I think I can change. All of that, you know. Listen, I love wine. I like whiskey. I like to drink. You know, I always have. It's one of these things where you know, after work, after a long day, you know, especially in, you know, working in finance, it's high pressure, high stress. You're on the desk, all day. You get home and the first thing you want to do is unwind with it, with a glass of whiskey or something, whatever it is, and my passion for it goes beyond, just I like to collect wine. It's just one of my hobbies, and so always had this relationship, funny enough, with alcohol. But one of the first things I said to you guys was, look, absolutely think, it's empty calories. You're 100% correct. I don't smoke. I don't do any other sort of, drugs or anything like that. But I like to drink, and I'll happily cut it out a little bit, but I won't stop. And I kind of knew this about myself going into this and thinking, no chance, because I'm going to want to, enjoy it. And it just naturally came to be that, the first thing that Jason said to me was like, okay, we'll see. And it happened to be that, it got to a point, I think it was a 4-month stretch where I hadn't had a drink. And you put yourself in situations where, you go out for maybe a client dinner or an evening out with friends or something like that. And I can't help but hark back on sort of that trip with Ricky, seeing him with all the guys, with we've got, all sorts of drinks on the table. And Rick says, you know what, I'm good. Can I have a bottle of water? And it just makes you realize that, look, those are empty calories. They're not necessary. You don't need them. So yeah. So you're right. I got to a stage where I'm not saying I don't drink at all. I still do, but it's significantly less than I used to. And yeah, going back, obviously to your initial question, I think these were, that moment was very, very, very. It was a moment of change for me. Like I feel like at that time there was so much for me to learn, and so much for me to understand about myself. Going through this program, understanding how my macros align, how my fitness aligns with the workouts and everything. It was easy for me to sort of filter out the parts of my life that weren't necessarily needed anymore. Some of the bad habits that maybe I had. So, ordering food late at night, getting something delivered because I was too lazy to make the steps to a restaurant or to the grocery store or something. My whole thought process just completely shifted.
Yeah.
Now, I get home and I think, well, shit, I've been on the desk all day. I need to get some steps in. So let me now walk to the grocery store.
Man, love this.
And now I've killed two birds with one stone. I've got my groceries, getting ready to prep for the next few days, my meals. But I've also managed to get the steps in while doing it. And so, listen, working in the job that I work in is high pressure. But with the right planning, the right organization, anything is possible. I as I said to you in the beginning, I just don't even recognize myself anymore. I've had conversations with Jason midweek saying that, I get home and some days, really, really, really busy days at work where I'm just sat in the desk or sat in a meeting room or just somewhere just very, very non-mobile. Get home, it's 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night, and I got 8,300 steps. And my goal is 10,000. I'm that guy that will walk circles in my apartment until I get to 10,000 steps, and because if I don't see 5 digits, and it's just 4 digits the next day, that's going to bother me. Yeah. And I've never been that guy, but I've shared that with Jason and it's like now, my whole mindset is shifted and it's all to a positive, in a positive way, it's just the amount of things that you can accomplish when you really, really want to, or when you're in the right state of mind, or when you make yourself available to do that.
Yeah. I think you're a fantastic example of somebody who really sort of exemplifies the process of how over time priorities shift and how you start building new habits and how you make that process a really sustainable way of life.
Absolutely.
Because again, it's not a diet, it's not a shortcut, it's not something that you do for 6 months and you bounce back. You expressed it very well. It's that mindset shift, priorities shift, and you create those habits.
Yeah.
Because your values also change as well.
Absolutely.
Talking of values, I'm interested because I don't think I've asked this question, which I always do.
Yeah.
The why and the reason. So what was the bigger picture? What was the why behind? I know that obviously from a health perspective, you wanted to change self-confidence, self-image, all of that. Was there anything else that was like really kind of driving you through beyond?
You know what? I think because of my athletic background, I have that sort of competitive bug.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it was almost a challenge to myself. You know, it was almost like, nah, you can't do this. You know, we all have voices in our heads that you got a good one and a bad one. You know, and I feel like when you had first really explained this whole program to me, I thought to myself, wow, that is some undertaking. You know, you really got to commit to that. You know, because it, as you said a moment ago, it's a shift. It's a shift in thinking. It's a shift in lifestyle. You know, and the first thing that we all think about immediately is how we as individuals can incorporate something like this in the busy lives that we live. And immediately I thought, right, there's no time for me to do anything like this. You know, where you work 10 hours a day, sometimes maybe more. You know, you're already getting up early, going to bed late. You know, sometimes you even have to go out after work, all that kind of stuff. Where am I going to find the time to do? Where am I going to find the time to go to the grocery store? You know, you start thinking, and then you think, nah, can you do this? Can you pull it off? I think, to answer your question, I think you know, it posed itself as a challenge to me.
I like that. Do you know the way I see it is you held yourself to a high standard. For me, that's what you wanted to better yourself.
Yeah.
You know, you can call it a challenge or whatever. I think you just wanted to better yourself.
Oh, without question. We all. I would like to think that we all want to better ourselves. I 100% wanted to better myself. 100% wanted to see what I was capable of. Wanted to see how far this can go. And in the end, I feel like challenge was met. You know.
Yeah, great stuff. Obviously, for people out there listening, and I always ask this, if somebody is potentially thinking of joining the program, listening to your story, other stories, maybe still sitting on the fence, what would you say to somebody like that?
I'd say get off the fence, buddy. What are you waiting for? I mean, we sort of alluded to this conversation yesterday that there is never going to be something that falls out of the sky that hits you in the head that says, right, it's the right time. You know, hit the button, go. No, you have to just make that decision. You have to just go out there and do it. You know, set yourself up, believe in yourself, and nothing is going to feel comfortable. You know what? An old golf coach used to tell me when I was a kid. One of my golf swing coaches used to tell me this. He used to say, if what you're doing today feels comfortable, then you're still doing the old stuff. You're over and over again. So you're doing the same thing over and over again. If the new thing that you're trying to accomplish doesn't feel uncomfortable, then you're not doing it correctly. So what you're doing has to feel uncomfortable, has to feel different, has to bring change, has to feel sometimes, you know, unwelcome, hard, you know, and I think we have to put ourselves in these situations to test our mettle, to test our will, and you said it earlier today. If it's easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah. Comfort is the enemy of progress.
100%.
Yeah. Well, Faiyaz, incredible. Thank you very much for the way you showed up throughout this process, because you genuinely have been incredible, man.
No, I appreciate it.
Kudos to you for the mindset, the resilience, the discipline, all of it for the vulnerability as well, because I think that's, part of it. Acceptance and really wanting to better yourself every day and going after it. And more so for making the first step and committing to yourself. And I will finish with this because that really is one of the most powerful things that you said there. When you looked in the mirror and you said to yourself, I can do better. And I think a lot of men should really hear that, because I think a lot of men quietly ask themselves or say this thing to themselves every single day when they look in the mirror, but they haven't got the courage to go after what they know they should do. So,
no,
true inspiration, man.
Yeah, thank you. No, I really appreciate it, guys. And listen, at the end of the day, none of this, would be possible without this platform that you guys have created, because truly, one of the best parts about this program for me is the open space that you guys have created that allows vulnerability, that allows the individual, somebody like me, to open up and really be myself throughout this entire process without being fearful or scared to share exactly what it is that I'm going through, whether that's physically or emotionally. And I feel like you guys have always been there welcoming, anything that as an individual I might be going through. And without that, you don't get to this product.
Yeah.
So thank you both.
Very welcome.
And thank you to all of the other members out there for being supportive on the app. I think that's it's a phenomenal group, and I think we just all have to be supportive of each other.
Thank you. Big shout out to all of our current clients and past clients. For the support and encouragement. Man, thank you so much.
All right.
It's been an absolute pleasure.
Guys, thank you.
Thanks.
If you enjoyed this episode and felt inspired and would like to find out more about my body transformation program, please visit my website at www.martinbugai.com or message me on Instagram @martinbugayfitness, and we can schedule a free strategy call where we can discuss your goals and find out more about how I can help you transform your body and your health.